All right, everybody ready? All right, good deal. Between February 1st, 2016 and April 15, 2016, the Memphis Police Department's Organized Crime Unit, through Blue Crush operations, seized multiple weapons and made multiple drug arrests throughout the city. These investigations resulted in the recovery of 130 guns, 223 pounds of marijuana with a street value of over $223,000, 1,118 grams of crack and powder cocaine with a street value of $46,000, heroin, methamphetamine, and assorted pills. Within this 2-month period, undercover detectives conducted numerous investigations, served several search warrants, and initiated traffic stops that resulted in the recovery and confiscation of the aforementioned items, and you see many of them before you. 130 weapons. This includes 110 handguns and 20 long guns. These guns are displayed before you. These guns are now in our possession and are no longer in our community. 223 pounds of marijuana, 1,118 grams of crack and powder cocaine, various amounts of heroin, methamphetamine, and assorted pills. Within this time period, our officers also made multiple arrests, 394 felony arrests. 61 of those arrests were for weapons charges. 424 misdemeanor arrests and 808 misdemeanor citations were issued. In addition to this operation, on Monday, May 2nd, 2016, the Organized Crime Unit conducted a search warrant for narcotics at 1025 South Wellington. Information received from this execution of this warrant led detectives to other locations in the 900 block of Newell and the 500 block of North Holmes. A search of 3 locations yielded a total of $13,135 in cash, approximately 33.3 pounds of marijuana, 405 Xanax pills, 22 firearms, which included handguns, assault rifles, and a shotgun, numerous rounds of assorted ammunition, and several ammunition magazines. 10 of the firearms recovered were stolen from citizens of Memphis, and 6 of these weapons were reported stolen from Richards Armory Gun Shop in Bartlett, Tennessee. As a result of this investigation, detectives charged 43-year-old Marlo Coleman with 2 counts of felony possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute and possession of drug paraphernalia. I asked that OCU Commander Paul Wright show us some of the weapons that were recovered with the Marlo Coleman case. I need some gloves, too.
This is just one of the weapons that were stolen
He took care of
from Richards Armory. This table here is the table that came from 900 block of Newell. Officers conducted a knock and talk at that location and recovered 22 weapons that had been taken. 10 of those weapons had been stolen from the citizens of the city. 6 had been taken from Armory, from the Richards Armory program. These weapons are high-powered weapons. As you can see, rifles that most people on the street wouldn't be carrying around.
Thank you. I also want to conclude by saying that these investigations are only an example of the hard work and dedication that is displayed by our Organized Crime Unit and the men and women of the Memphis Police Department. You should all know these officers, your officers, work day in, day out to rid our community of criminals who choose to bring guns, drugs, and unlawful behavior into our community. The men of the Memphis Police Department will continue to work hard. They will uphold the law, and they will bring down anyone who attempts to infiltrate our great city with these types of criminal activities. We'll now take a few questions.
Can you go through the dollar amounts again? You kind of went through those earlier. How much money's worth of drugs total was seen?
So we got several, but $13,135 in cash, 3.3 pounds of marijuana, 405 Xanax pills, and 22 firearms from one case. And I think I open up with a $223,000 amount when you're talking about the marijuana, 46,500 a street value of some of the powder cocaine and crack.
And he might have said 3.3 pounds. 33.3 of marijuana. Yes.
And Director, can you give us a little bit of context? Because quite frankly, we know that OCU does this and they do it all the time. What we're looking at is this, how does this compare to what they're normally taking off the streets? Is this huge for you or no?
Well, let me ask you that question, because I've stood in this room with many of you before in the past. I've been in this room, actually I was an undercover UC agent, and this is probably one of the largest collections of guns, firearms, long guns, and marijuana that I have personally witnessed. So again, it's hard to compare when we had 2,500 officers and OCU was staffed with almost double the staff. So when I look at and I see that with a large reduction in staff, that these men and women are hitting it hard. They're hitting the streets every day. We get the reports. I see the work they're doing. And so comparing it to the staff that we had to the staff now, they are doing a bang up job.
Do we know if any of these guns were used in any of the homicides from this year?
You know, we're not sure. It's still ongoing investigations. We're still, following any leads on that. But it takes time to kind of, go through a large collection of firearms like this and determine if that's the case.
And everything we're looking at is connected to those three addresses you mentioned, or no?
No, sir. This is several months of work since February 1st when I took command of MPD. But again, it just highlights the hard work that these men and women do every day. And as I say, they're out there taking guns off the street. They're risking their lives. But we just want to remind the citizens that we're going to work. We're going to do everything we can to rid this city of guns, of criminals, of gangs, and drugs.
What happens to all of this?
Well, some of them are still going through the criminal process. So, it's evidence. So until it's adjudicated by a judge and the judge determines what happens, then, it's yet to be determined. But it'll be stored in our property room and it'll be properly disposed of or destroyed within the guidelines of the law.
And all of this is just since February, you said?
Yes, it is.
And obviously we look at this and as you even said, you're surprised by the sheer number. Can you talk about what kind of dent it puts in what's out there? I mean, the reality is this is likely as impressive as it looks to us. It's a drop in the bucket of what you have to face.
Well, that's one way to look at it, okay? But from a law enforcement perspective, we can only get what we see. We come in contact with someone and they're committing a crime, then it's our job to check, and if there's a crime, we make an arrest. So I can't look at it like that. I wish I had a magical wand and could make all the criminals stop shooting each other, but it's our job to arrest and apprehend criminal offenders, just like the indictments you saw yesterday. We can only do what we can do, and but it still highlights that we're doing everything we can to make this city safe.
I mentioned more as a question. Is it a drop in a bucket or no?
I have no idea. I have no idea to look into all the homes. You know, most of Memphians are law-abiding citizens. And what we see is a small percent of individuals are wreaking havoc on the community. We still arrest some of the same individuals over and over again. We look at them every Thursday when we do track. They've been arrested 60 times, 90 times, 30 times. So again, we're going to follow the law. We're going to apprehend criminals. And I just want to send a message to all the criminals out there, folks that are robbing, that are shooting, that are carrying illegal guns and drugs, we're coming after you.
You said you're doing less with fewer officers. So
I did not say that. I said we're doing more with
I'm
less.
sorry. I misspoke. So is there anything specifically that's changed in the way that you all approach crimes like this?
Well, a lot has changed. We reorganized a multi-agency gang unit. We created 2 CAT teams within organized crime unit to dedicate more officers to street enforcement. We're trying to enhance all of our drug investigations. But again, we haven't given up. So we're going to continue to work hard, and we're going to do the best we can to protect this city.
Is there anything that you have to say about youth violence? We just got some numbers today that so far 17 people under 18 are among those homicides from this year.
Yes.
Anything to be said about that and what's being done on that front?
Yes, I have a lot to say about that. So, matter of fact, that's a good segue into our next conversation. So, do we have any other questions before I change the subjects and allow?
Just real quick, you mentioned some of the weapons that were stolen. Can you speak on how the percentage of weapons seized that were stolen?
Well, I think I gave you the specific numbers. I'll let you guys do the percent. But Karen's going to give you the printout. You'll have a disc so you can run the percentages. I did want to give the mayor an opportunity to speak before we transition to the next subject.
I just want to reiterate what the director said. This operation since February 1st, combined with those indictments from yesterday, clearly send the signal that we're not going to tolerate the violence, the drug dealing, the intimidation in our neighborhoods. And those bad guys out there, these men and women in blue, are coming after you, and we're not going to tolerate it.
All right, any other questions? All right, you specifically asked about the homicides. So let's talk about that, okay? And I'll come back to your question about youth violence. All right, as of today, the Memphis Police Department's Homicide Bureau has received 78 homicide cases. Of those 78 cases, 55 have been solved. 42 physical arrests have been made, and 3 warrants have been issued for suspects that remain at large, and 4 cases have been ruled as justifiable homicides by the District Attorney General's office. It is important to point out that at least 34 suspects were known to their victim. They were friends, family members, or acquaintances. 11 of these homicides are believed to be gang-related. By saying gang-related, I mean the suspect, the victim, or both are known gang members, and the homicide occurred due to some type of gang activity. Due to these cases being ongoing investigations, I cannot provide any additional details. 14 of those homicides are domestic violence related. 17 involve juveniles. This includes 4 unborn children. 15 victims and 2 of the juveniles are suspects. 12 of these cases involving juveniles have been solved. 64 of these homicides were committed using a firearm. In 2015, year to date, we experienced 47 homicides. Last year's total homicides were 161. 125 were solved. 24 of those homicides were found to be gang related. 26 were domestic violence related. 21 involved juveniles, 13 victims and 8 suspects. 137 of last year's homicides were committed using a firearm. As I've mentioned before, it's almost impossible to predict when a homicide will occur. There is no statistical data that will alert us of when someone has made a decision to commit murder. The Memphis Police Department cannot combat the problem alone. We must, as a community, take a stand. These senseless killings must stop. As I mentioned above, 34 of these homicides occur between individuals who are known to each other. The lack of communication among our citizens, the affiliation with gang ties, guns in the wrong hands, and a lack of desire to solve problems without violence are just some reasons these homicides can occur. We must change the route that we are going. We can do our part by placing officers in areas that we have identified as potential high crime areas. We can increase our community outreach efforts, and we can work hard to identify and arrest those individuals who choose to violate the law. But again, we cannot do this without help from the community. I challenge everyone to step up. If you see something, say something. If you see an altercation occurring, call the police. If you see anything or someone that seems suspicious in your neighborhood, call the police. If you have information concerning a crime that's about to take place, or you know something about a crime that has occurred, call the police or call Crime Stoppers. Citizens must use their voice. Any small detail will make a difference, not only when speaking of homicides, but in regards to any crime. And the end word is that we must all work together. The police cannot do it alone. So when you talk about youth crime, it really bothers me because all those youth, all those children, they have parents. They have mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters. And often, a lot of those individuals know that they're carrying guns because they take the guns home. Some of them are selling drugs. So people need to intervene in their family members, their friends' lives early on. Get involved. Do not let these things unfold. And really partner with the police department to make this a safer community. We'll take a few questions.
So 42 arrests, 3 outstanding warrants, at least 10 cases that are solved. What do you all know who did it but don't have enough evidence? What's the missing piece there?
Well, some of these investigations are still ongoing, and we'll continue to work on those until we determine who the suspects are.
Well, when you say solved, my assumption.
Solved means that the suspect has been identified.
I can break down those numbers for you after this.
You know, I think you can hear people say quite often, Memphis, crime, I don't feel safe, things are bad. What I'm hearing from you collectively and visually seeing is, are you trying to send a message that it's not that bad, that you are on it, that your officers are working? Is that the point of this?
You know, I'm trying to send the same message I said day one, that it takes everybody working to make this a safe community. Often I hear that people are waiting on the police to solve all these problems. The police have one aspect. Clergy, everyone in the educational system, individuals in the community, and media. You all have a part. As I said day one, media, you have the biggest voice within the region. So we're asking that everyone partner with us to make this a safer community. So that is what I'm saying.
Of the cases where a firearm was used, do you all know how many of those firearms were obtained illegally?
Yeah, we can get you a breakdown.
And just considering the high number of homicides we've had this year compared to last year, and then the manpower y'all are working with, can you speak on the impact, the weight that has on the officers?
Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I mean, the officers are working hard. So it impacts them. But hey, these are tough men and women. So they're going to keep coming to work. They're going to keep doing their job. You know, it's not an easy job, and that's why we're looking for some good men and women to step up and become Memphis police officers and help us in this fight. All right. Thank y'all.